These are the beautiful vineyards dotted around the historic city of Jerez de la Frontera in Andalusia, world famous home for the production of sherry. Since the late 1970s, I think it's fair to say that sherry has not been the world's most fashionable drink. At one time, more than 20,000 hectares were under the vine here. Today, this is reduced to a mere 7,000. Now, there are many factors that can explain this, and this video and other videos will explore some of these in more detail. However, in many cases, this relative decline, this concentration back to the best vineyards, to the best sites, a focus on producing the finest fruit, and a return to many of the traditional production methods that made sherry one of the greatest wines in the world, in a way have sowed the seeds for what many consider to be a true sherry renaissance. And where better to explore that than in one of the finest vineyards of all, Macharnudo, just to the north of Jerez.
This is Macharnudo Pago, a prime, some would say the prime location in all of Jerez Superior. It's located at a relatively low 135 meters, though the highest point in the surrounding area. And as you can see, the vineyards themselves are gently rolling, usually at 15 to 20 degree angles. This is where the finest Palomino grapes can be cultivated. These are wines that once dominated the world and made Jerez and the surrounding towns of the Sherry Triangle some of the richest places on earth. So welcome to another edition of Sherry Aficionado. And as you probably surmised, today we're visiting with Bodegas Valdespino to understand a little bit more about their unique approach to winemaking. Now, many commentators believe that this focus on terroir, on tradition, and on quality throughout the entire production chain is one of the reasons why more and more discerning consumers are returning to fine sherries. Now, as we have discussed in previous episodes, demand for sherry has fallen quite dramatically since its high point in the late 70s, early 80s, caused by increasing competition from new wine producing areas, changing in consumer tastes generally, and the fact that sherry has become, unfortunately, rather unfashionable. However, in the late 19th century, any discerning wine lover from Northern Europe or North America would have been as familiar with places like the Macharnudo Pago as any location in Bordeaux or Burgundy. And thanks to the efforts of winemakers like Valdespino, thanks to the quality of the fruit produced here, thanks to the minute attention to detail in the vinification process, wines like this are becoming increasingly sought after by connoisseurs of great wines, and in particular great sherries. So to learn a little bit more about this remarkable place, I'm joined with Ignacio Lopez de Carrozosa, who is the export director of Grupo Jose Esteves. Ignacio, tell me a little bit more about what makes this place special.
So as you have explained, Paul, earlier on, we're actually at Macharnudo Alto. This is probably an iconic area within the Sherry DO. The highest point of the whole region, 135 meters above sea level, is not very high, considering the sherry denomination of origin. Actually, the whole region is very flat, very gently slopey. We're probably seeing the best example of Albariza soil that we can see in the whole region, with chalk and calcium carbonate ranging between 60 to 70% of the whole containing the components in this soil, and the rest being clay and sand. That chalky calcium carbonate is going to transmit the main characteristics of the wines that are being sourced from this Pago, which is the minerality. It's what we call the Macharnudo stamp, the mineral, complex, beautiful finesse that we're going to be seeing in all these Macharnudo wines.
And more importantly, tasting later.
Absolutely. I mean, these mineral character is going to be very clearly spottable in all these wines, from biological aging sherries even to amontillados, which actually go through some time through the oxidative aging as well.
Ignacio, my understanding was that during the sort of massive expansion of the sherry business up until, say, the 80s, these Albariza soils were not the only soils that were used for production. The Barros soils, the Arenas soils also ended up coming into Palomino production, I guess, overall. And that, it is believed, had a significant impact on quality. But I think that Valdespino have always operated from this location. Am I correct?
You're correct, Paul. I mean, we've always been very much focused on a concept which is very much original and unique, and very much linked to the name Valdespino, and that's the single vineyard sherries. Macharnudo Alto, this property, this estate, has been actually in production since the late 19th century by the Valdespino family, and later on by the Esteves, the Grupo Esteves family, and the Esteves family, making, as I say, producing grapes here of exceptional quality. Grapes that have been sourced to make our iconic Valdespino single sherry wines, and grapes that have actually proved to be of exceptional quality, on exceptional finesse to make these, unique wines.
And the bottle has carried the single vineyard Macharnudo kind of statement, which was not widely practiced in this part of the world, right? You've carried that on through the years.
Absolutely. I mean, the single vineyard somehow mark or stamp has always been linked to us, and that actually marked the difference in quality and in complexity for our wines. And it still, as you very well explained, is actually stated and carried on our labels very clearly for those wines that have been sourced from this particular state.
And there are others who we won't mention who are starting to do that as well, I think. And
correct. There are more and more smaller producers. They're actually focusing on the actual terroir, on the soil, on the different pagos within the region, and we're seeing fantastic wines coming up, which are going to contribute to that sort of sherry revival that we expect to be happening in the next years.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we talked a little bit about the Albariza soils and how special they are, because this is a unique climate. I mean, those of us that spend a lot of time here, there's a large number of days of sunlight. There isn't much rain until a very compact season where quite a lot of rain actually falls. And this soil has some remarkable properties that allow it to deal with those climatic variations. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I think it's a combination of three factors, Paul. We have, to begin with, the soil. As I was mentioning earlier on, this is the best example of Albariza that we can find in the whole sherry DO, with very high content of chalk, of calcium carbonate, transmitting that minerality and that finesse to all our wines. Secondly, we have the vines, right, which are ranging between 25 and 35 years, exceptional quality of Palomino, and on a third place we will find the orientation of this vineyard is actually very gently slope orientated northwest, facing the Atlantic Ocean, and therefore getting that wonderful sea breeze, bringing humidity and moisture to the vines, which will contribute in the whole sort of ripening and evolution, developing process of the vine throughout its own cycle.
And that's the wonderful Poniente that we
Correct.
look for whenever we can, those of us who spend time here.
That's the Poniente, which is cool, is full of humidity, of that sea breeze that we're actually looking for, and it's it's what bringing the moisture and the humidity that will contribute for the plants to develop and to bring some healthy state towards the end of the harvest process.
You guys have had a pretty tough summer, I guess, in terms of not, less rainfall even than usual. So we can see just how dry it is here now. But this soil also has you wouldn't believe it in a way to look at it, but it has a remarkable capacity to absorb rain when it comes and kind of hold on to it and then release it back through the warm summer months. Is that right?
That's absolutely right. I mean, we actually have rain very much concentrated along two periods throughout the year. One right after the harvest and one just before the flowering spring time. We're going to get actually quite aggressive rain throughout these two periods, heavy rain, and this rain is going to be collected and drained by this soil, and somehow it will remain there, feeding the plant throughout the whole year. Having said that, we have to say that we've actually had 3-4 years drought in a row, and obviously plants are starting to stress. Hopefully we're going to have some rain in the next coming months, and this situation is somehow reverted.
These are gentle slopes, and when rain comes it will just wash away, I guess, sort of leach away. You do some strange stuff here in terms of creating like mounds. Just talk a bit about how that works.
We actually operate in a historical, very old, traditional process called acerbia. So what we're basically doing is digging small ponds between the rows of vines, which will collect water during the rain season and will at the same time avoid erosion, that, rain washing down the slope and somehow, transporting all that albariza soil down to the bottom. We want to avoid that. That's our main objective, and that's the reason why we actually dig these little ponds called acerbia.
Okay. Now, just a final question on the vineyard. We can see the vines behind you there. There is more and more mechanization coming to this region, as there is to all wine parts of the world, as the equipment gets better, quite frankly, and not as brutal as it used to be. What methods do you use in terms of actually cultivating the vines here?
We're combining two styles or two types of pruning here. The double cordon, which is very much expanded to the whole region today, and then the traditional vara y pulgar system, which is a rotating pruning system where we're going to be guiding all the sap into one particular branch. That's very much concentrated and focused on single vineyard sherries, right? Where obviously vines are ranging between 25 and 35 years old, therefore they're more likely to suffer during the mechanical harvest. And we're going to be harvesting by hand these vines, right? So obviously there's going to be a lower yield by this pruning system, but very much an exceptional quality of grapes there.
And now it's time to leave Macharnudo with a short drive to the headquarters of Grupo Jose Esteves, where the Valdespino bodega still exists, along with all of their other productions. It's a classically built structure, but very modern, and there are many gems here to explore, not just the Valdespino Soleras, as we will see as these videos continue. However, I think one must be honest and say it's not the most romantic setting. Perched as it is on the edge of the ring road, the best way to find it perhaps is to head for IKEA and turn left.
I'm delighted to be inside the inner sanctum of Valdespino and to be joined with two key players in the production of these amazing wines. Victoria Frutos, the chief enologist here for the group, and the Capataz, Jose Luis, who is, I think, going to win our award for the best use of the Venencia during these weeks. But we will see, so the pressure is on you as we go through this. What we're going to do now is just to understand a little bit more about the philosophy behind the Valdespino wines that are produced within the group here, and maybe for our more sophisticated viewers, some of the technicalities that really make Valdespino wines, and Innocente in particular, so special.
Now I'm just going to pause there for a second, because I think Valdespino gives us a unique opportunity to understand the interrelationship of different wines from the same vineyard. Traditionally, bodegas will spread their Soleras around multiple locations as they grew up in a kind of higgledy-piggledy manner in the center of Jerez and the other towns of the Sherry Triangle. But because when Grupo Esteves acquired Valdespino's bodegas, they consolidated them all together in this one giant space on the outskirts of Jerez, we can actually see the different Solera systems running side by side, all of which derive from Macharnudo. To illustrate this, I'm going to take a leaf literally from a book by Julian Jeffs on sherry, first published in 1961, but updated on multiple occasions since then. I strongly recommend it, by the way, and there will be a link below in the description. But on this piece of paper, it's rather hard to read, I appreciate. You can see how the different Soleras of Inocente, Tío Diego, and the Palo Cortados all run together from the original source wines in the Sobre Tabla from the vineyard. And I'm hoping that by looking at this chart, and I've dropped the images of the individual wines on top of it, it allows Victoria's explanation to make a little bit more sense in what is quite a complicated area. So with that, back to you, Victoria.
El origen de una larga crianza posterior de varios vinos que salen de aquí. ¿Qué es lo particular que tiene Macharnudo? ¿Y por qué Macharnudo y esa viña en concreto, ¿no? Bueno, pues la particularidad que tiene es su situación. Está situada al noroeste, a 5 kilómetros de Jerez, en una zona donde el contenido de carbonato cálcico es bastante elevado, con lo cual eso lo que nos da a nuestros vinos, pues una sensación de agarre en la boca, una sensación de tiza en la boca, que luego al final lo que nos da son vinos con mucha identidad, mucho carácter y diferentes al resto. Este fino pues tiene 10 criaderas y solera y bueno, una edad media de unos 11 años. Esto es totalmente atípico en Jerez porque bueno, la edad media más o menos de los finos pues suelen rondar entre 4 años y medio, 5. Este fino es lo más parecido a lo que se llamaba antiguamente un fino viejo, ¿vale? ¿Qué es lo que ocurre durante la crianza? Bueno, ahora estamos catando precisamente la octava criadera, que son las criaderas más jóvenes, y nosotros cada vez que sacamos este vino, cuando sacamos de la solera, pues tenemos que catar bota por bota, ¿vale? Para asegurar que todo más o menos, asegurar más o menos un mismo estilo, o un estilo parecido, aunque cada bota es un universo distinto, ¿no? Pero sí es verdad que vamos buscando ese estilo. ¿Y cuál es ese estilo? Bueno, pues lo que hablábamos antes del Pago de Macharnudo, de esa viña de Valdespino, y lo que ocurre es que ese vino que nosotros hemos explicado antes, que se quedaba 9 o 10 meses en estático, entra por la criadera más joven de Inocente, que es la 10ª criadera, y a partir de ahí pues va corriendo escalas hasta llegar a la solera. Lo que pasa durante la crianza, pues evidentemente empieza a aparecer un velo de flor, ¿vale? que lo protege frente al oxígeno, y ese velo de flor, ¿qué es lo que hace durante la crianza? Pues lo que hace es consumir alcohol y alimentarse los nutrientes disueltos que hay en el vino. Y eso, ¿cómo se traduce en el vino? ¿Qué es lo que ocurre cuando pasa eso, no? Bueno, pues el vino lo que hace es que se va afinando durante su crianza, se va redondeando y empiezan a aparecer esas notas minerales, esa caliza que se le nota muy al principio se va redondeando en el tiempo, pero sigue ahí. Entonces, lo difícil de todo esto es asegurar ese estilo que nosotros buscamos porque viene de esa viña y que con una larga crianza como es de este fino, que son 11 años de media, cuando llegamos a la solera seguimos viendo ese origen. Eso es lo importante. Bueno, estamos ya en la solera. Este vino llega aquí a su final, al final de su crianza y de una larga crianza de 11 años de media, y el vino aquí expresa todo aquello que buscábamos desde el origen, ¿no? En todo momento se ve ese pago de Macharnudo, que tenga esas particularidades, que se haya seleccionado bien esa selección que hacemos desde el inicio, al inicio antes de meter ese vino a formar parte del sistema de criaderas y soleras, y bueno, y todo ese control y ese mimo, ¿no?, que le damos a lo largo de los años. Y además también las botas, la vasija en Jerez es muy importante, porque, bueno, si veis, pues son vasijas con unas duelas bastante gordas. Esto es porque son vasijas muy antiguas, ¿no? Y en una crianza como esta, que es tan larga, pues si tuviésemos que incorporar botas nuevas al sistema de crianza, porque hay averías, hay botas que llegase el fin de su vida, pues se incorporan al inicio. Jamás se incorpora una bota nueva aquí al final. ¿Por qué? Pues porque buscamos ese saber hacer de durante muchos años.
Educación de la madera.
Y ahí sobre todo la labor de José Luis, que está pendiente pues de toda la vasija, de la madera, que tenga un buen envinado, que el vino críe bien y bueno, y que podamos llegar a tener esto y disfrutar de esto, que bueno, es una joya, ¿no? ¿Brindamos? De cardenal, que si no lo podemos ver muchas veces. Vente para acá, acércate. Bueno, esto ya es para meditar.
Pero la finura que tiene.
La finura, claro, es que se ve, es que es así, es...
La estructura que invoca.
Exacto. Bueno, estamos en la sacristía de Valdespino. Aquí es donde están los vinos más viejos de nuestra bodega. Ahora mismo estamos en Cardenal, porque este Cardenal es uno de nuestros palos cortados. Este palo cortado tiene entre 70 y 80 años, un palo cortado viejo, pero es que además aquí es donde concluye todo ese entramado de nuestra viña Valdespino, esa fermentación en bota que explicaba antes, ese bebé del inicio. Aquí es donde termina todo, ¿no? Cuando he dicho antes que nosotros el vino lo dejábamos 9 o 10 meses en estático al inicio de todo, ahí es donde José Luis y yo entramos a catar bota por bota para seleccionar lo que va a hacer crianza biológica, tanto para Inocente como para Tío Diego. Y en esas catas, tanto en ese vino en estático como en las primeras criaderas de Inocente y Tío Diego, nosotros seleccionamos ciertos vinos que no desarrollan bien esa crianza biológica. Esos vinos que no desarrollan bien esa crianza, explicar esto es complicado, ¿no? Pero al final pues no tienen esa vocación, ¿no? para que se desarrolle adecuadamente ese velo de flor. Entonces es cuando a partir de ahí desviamos esos vinos, los alcoholizamos a 17 grados y a partir de ahí empiezan una crianza oxidativa que, pues, como en el caso de este vino, pues una larguísima crianza oxidativa. El intermedio, antes de llegar a Cardenal, tenemos nuestro palo cortado viejo CP. Es un palo cortado que tiene 20 años de media y ahí es donde empieza a salir el primer palo cortado de esa desviación que nosotros hacemos, ¿no?
There are many, many gems to explore within this complex. A fantastic collection of clocks, walking sticks, historic posters from the world of sherry, but perhaps the most impressive of all is the contemporary art section, which comprises works by Miro, Dali, and a tremendous collection of 100 engravings in the Suite Voilade from Picasso. So a lot more to discover than just the world of sherry, should you take the time to visit the Grupo Esteves complex, slightly on the outskirts of Jerez.
Well, that concludes the first part of our visit with Valdespino. Join me in a few weeks for part 2, when we'll understand more about the history of Valdespino, its transition to the Grupo Jose Esteves, and the development of those remarkable brands Inocente and Tío Diego, which are very widely available at the premium end of the spectrum across the world. In the meantime, if you've enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe. It really helps us with this channel. But until the next time, it is salud y nos vemos from me.